Coming out of Saturday's Magnificent 7 card, we had a chance to once again see one of the new heavyweight arrivals when Lawrence Okolie took on Hussien Muhammad. This was a fight scheduled on the Magnificent 7 card where former two-time world champion Lawrence Okolie was officially making his heavyweight debut. Let's talk about what happened when these two men faced off, and now that Okolie is a heavyweight, what may very well be on the horizon for him. Will he be fast-tracked into an opportunity? Let's talk about it. The Magnificent 7 card that took place on Saturday, December 7th. The sevens line up. Was a great opportunity for some to get their feet wet in a place where they weren't quite ready prior to now. And we're talking about the heavyweights when we say this. For instance, when you take on heavyweight opportunities, you know that the punches are bigger, the fighters are stronger, and sometimes the odds are heavier. So it was the same when we had an opportunity to see the likes of Lawrence Okolie when he entered this fight against Hussien Muhammad. It was an opportunity for Muhammad to kind of make a name for himself against a guy who hadn't campaigned at the division quite yet. However, Okolie, who has had experience in the gym, training with some of the top-notch heavyweights like Anthony Joshua and others, he was finally able to come in and not having to cut weight. Though I thought he came in a bit heavy at 260 pounds, his frame, even though he had been fighting and campaigning at cruiserweight and won a title there, and then a little bit later at bridgerweight, Okolie seemed to just wanted to let it go as far as not having to cut weight at all. And in this fight, it paid off because Muhammad was not necessarily the type of threat that he would need to be concerned with. That is the situation here. Because though he's a former world champion, Okolie had difficulties at cruiserweight, particularly in his fight against Chris Billum-Smith. I noticed that instead of using his height and his reach and finding proper range, he had difficulty negotiating that against Billum-Smith, who was more of a plodding type fighter. Now, in the instance where we're talking about the likes of Hussien, who was roughly around the same height as he, what Lawrence was able to do against he was just use that 82.5-inch reach, and he kept him at bay, and eventually, when he found him, he caught him with that big right hand that he has, but Hussien offered not very much of himself, and he had been stopped in November of 2022 against Zan Kasubuski. Now, again, this was maybe what you can consider a light touch for Lawrence Okolie. But the heavyweight division is chock full of guys who will get after it, even if it's not their temperament to be heavy aggressors. The threats that they present with one another because of what they're able to do with their size and power and strength. Will Lawrence be a more formidable fighter? It remains to be seen. His victory prior to this was back in May against Lukas Rozanski. And in that fight, he was able to get a stoppage. But this is totally different, the heavyweight division. And I do understand that being a former cruiserweight champion and a bridgerweight champion, and bridgerweights are, listen, heavyweight is heavyweight, okay, over 200 pounds. But 260 is a bit high for Okolie. If he could get that back down to roughly 225, maybe, I think that he could be very formidable there and in great condition. But there are fighters who are going to present him with a different type of challenge. And he needs to understand that. He needs to know that, hey, when you're in there, the threat of the other guy going upside of your head is every bit as strong as what you're capable of doing to them. And this is something that he's going to have to look out for. But again, when you talk about Queensberry, Frank Warren, what they're doing with the heavyweight divisions, it almost seems like Frank Warren has taken a page out of Don King's book after having crossed paths with King in the past many years ago. He's learned to acquire the talent and let them sort it out. And then he'll be able to make the big money matches. And that's exactly what's happening. I expect Lawrence Okolie to possibly get a title shot sometime in 2025 because Frank Warren can make it happen. And even in the Riyadh season events of where Queensberry has participated, Turki Al-Sheikh can also use the likes of an Okolie to make some of these heavyweight battles with fighters to put on the quality type matches that he wants to continue with the Riyadh season events. It's going to be interesting. As far as Hussein Muhammad, he wasn't necessarily considered at the level, and he could be a threat to someone else, but it just won't be someone who is fast tracking toward a heavyweight title opportunity like the likes of Okolie. I would say if Okolie can get one or two more vicious knockouts like he was able to acquire in this fight, he puts himself in great position. But what do you think? This is Stormy B Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Leave comments and let's discuss. What do you think should be next for Okolie? A title shot right away or another heavyweight fight where he's taking on someone who's a bit more of a threat? That's what I feel. Another moderate threat, and then he can go on about his business. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.